This reads like a cinematic gut punch, the kind of moment that lives rent-free in someone's head for the rest of their life. It's full of tension, betrayal, and that rare, deeply satisfying twist where dignity walks in wearing a navy suit and shuts everyone up. Some things I really loved. The detail work, the hum of the fluorescent lights, the scent of lilies, the candy bowl, all grounded this in such a real, visceral space. The pacing, the build-up to the moment in the boardroom was masterfully tense, and the beat-by-beat structure made it easy to feel the protagonist's heartbreak in real time. Mr. Howard's entrance, pure narrative gold. The timing, the reversal of power, the stunned silence, classic, and the ending realization. Maybe I'd never needed to prove anything at all. That hits hard. Character depth. Mia's voice is strong and authentic. We can feel her hurt, pride, and steady evolution. Tension buildup. The moment in the boardroom, the whispers, the quiet stares. It's all cinematic and vivid. Symbolism. The napkin with names, the coffee shop as a place of reflection, the dress like armor. Beautiful. Dialogue. Natural and loaded with subtext. Mark's interaction especially oozes with corporate sibling rivalry, opportunities for refinement, structure, and flow. The story flows well in spoken word or stream of consciousness style, but for readability, consider adding paragraph breaks or sections. A shift to past tense narration might give it a more polished feel if you're aiming for formal storytelling. Scene transitions. Add smoother cues or visual anchors between scenes, e.g., from the boardroom to the parking lot. Right now, they flow emotionally but could be enhanced with stronger sensory detail. Climactic arc. You're hinting at a reckoning or Mia's rise, but it's still simmering. Maybe tease or foreshadow a bigger confrontation? Is she going to expose something or start her own firm? Even a whisper of her endgame would heighten anticipation. Tightening language. A few areas could be tightened to maintain rhythm, e.g., I sat at my desk, still technically the receptionist, still answering phones. Could be, I sat at my desk, still the receptionist, still answering phones, but no longer pretending. Use of timestamps, the 5:37, 5:39. At the beginning adds a unique, almost cinematic feel. If you keep this device, consider using it consistently throughout to punctuate key beats, almost like a clock counting down to a turning point. Department heads started circling, casually, of course. They framed it as curiosity, asking for my input on client communication strategies. But I could see through it. They were feeling me out. Even Mark stopped by the front desk, flashing a fake friendly smile. Hey, Mia, everything okay this week? What he really meant was, are you planning something? And the answer was, absolutely. Mr. Howard and I had spoken again, this time directly. His company was pursuing a high-stakes joint venture with ours, a deal with the potential to unlock global partnerships and redefine careers. He wanted me involved. They trust you, he said. You're the face they know. Not your brother, not even your father. That was the moment everything crystallized. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. And if the company was going to move forward with any integrity, the truth had to come out, not just about my role, but about how ego and legacy had replaced merit. So I started gathering, quietly, strategically. I combed through years of client emails, reports, resolution logs. I documented every time I stepped in to fix an executive's mistake. Every crisis de-escalated. Every weekend, every holiday I showed up when no one else did. It wasn't just a paper trail. It was a story, one they couldn't rewrite. Then came lunch with Denise, a longtime fixture in marketing, always kind but careful, never too outspoken. Until now. I've got something you should see, she said, sliding a flash drive across the table. What is it? I asked, keeping my voice low. She glanced around. Meeting minutes, internal memos, stuff I was asked to delete. I blinked. Why didn't you? She smiled. Because I've been underestimated too. That afternoon I stayed late. The office was empty, lights dimmed, just the glow of my monitor. I plugged in the drive, and there it was. Emails between Mark and my father discussing how to phase me out. Phrases like, keep her out of the loop and she's too visible. Clients were noticing. That was the problem. The most damning? A strategy memo drafted by Mark, time-stamped 2 weeks before the board meeting that blindsided me, outlining a plan to absorb my responsibilities and reframe my removal as a realignment. It wasn't just dismissal. It was a quiet execution, planned, precise. But they overlooked one thing. You don't erase the backbone of your company without leaving fingerprints. The next morning, I made copies. One for me, one for Mr. Howard, and one sealed in an envelope, for someone who might need it later. Then I walked into the office like nothing had changed. But everything had. At 10 a.m., my father called. A leadership meeting. The first since the day he let me go. I wasn't invited. Didn't matter. I already knew the agenda. Word was the Garnett and Rowe deal had stalled. Mr. Howard wasn't moving forward without proof of leadership stability, and that proof was me. They just didn't know it yet. I watched from the glass wall, Mark pacing, my father tapping his pen, like a drumbeat of denial, executives murmuring nervously. Then Mr. Howard arrived, calm, composed, briefcase in hand, but this time he wasn't alone. I waited 30 seconds. Then opened the door and stepped inside. Silence. Mr. Howard looked up, smiled, and gestured to the chair beside him. Mia, please join us. My father's voice was sharp. She's not on the leadership team. Mr. Howard didn't miss a beat. She is now. I sat. Not just to take a seat, but to take back my voice. Because this wasn't about titles anymore. It was about truth. And I had it in spades. The air shifted, not physically, perceptually. The hierarchy that had once dictated every glance and gesture crumbled in real time. Eyes darted, whispers halted. No one knew who held the power anymore. I didn't speak. Not at first. I let the silence do it for me. Then Mr. Howard began, voice composed, but laced with steel. Before we discuss next steps in the joint venture, there's something we need to address. That word dropped into the room like a hammer. Mr. Howard let it hang in the air before he continued. I've spent the past year watching how this company runs, how you lead, how you treat your clients, and how you treat each other. And I have to be honest. I'm concerned. My father stiffened beside me. With all due respect, I'm not sure this is the... No, Mr. Howard interrupted, turning to him. This is exactly the place. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out the folder I'd handed him that morning. I've reviewed documentation that paints a troubling picture, a deliberate effort to marginalize one of your most capable employees, the same person who's held together some of your largest accounts, including mine. He slid the folder across the table. My father didn't touch it. Mark shifted in his chair. The color had drained from his face. This is absurd, my father said finally. Mia was a receptionist. We gave her a job. She was never... Never what? I said softly. He looked at me, startled. Never qualified? Never supposed to be more than the girl who smiled at the front desk and kept your calendar running? I kept my voice calm, steady. Do you know how many times I cleaned up your messes, Dad? How many clients I saved when Mark missed a deadline? Or someone sent the wrong proposal or forgot a name on a call? The room was silent. I never did it for applause, I added. But I didn't do it to be erased either. Across the table, Denise gave the smallest nod. Quiet support. Mr. Howard leaned in. Let me be clear. My company will not move forward with any deal unless Mia is involved in a senior capacity. Period. She's not a receptionist. She's the reason you've kept us this long." The weight of his words settled over the room. "And if she leaves," he added, "we go with her." My father's jaw clenched. "You're letting personal bias cloud business." "No," Mr. Howard replied. "You did." Silence. Then slowly, my father opened the folder. His eyes scanned the first page, then the second. And I watched it happen. The realization that this wasn't just uncomfortable. It was evidence, signed, dated, traceable. When he looked up, he was pale. "Mia," he said, his voice low, "why didn't you come to me directly?" "I did," I said, "for 7 years." For once, he had no response. After the meeting, people avoided my gaze. Not in contempt, but in shame. Some looked like they wanted to say something, apologize maybe. Most just looked away. Mark didn't say a word. He followed my father out of the room, head down, fists clenched. I stayed behind. Mr. Howard turned to me as the others filed out. "You handled that with grace," he said. I shook my head. "I handled it with facts," he smiled. "Same thing in your case." I passed my old desk on the way out. Someone else was sitting there now. A temp, probably. She gave me a polite wave, unsure of who I was or what had just happened. I nodded back and kept walking. I didn't need that desk anymore. I had earned a seat at the table. 1 week later, my name was on a new office door. Client strategy lead. No more front desk. No more just a receptionist. I had a team, a real title, a seat in executive meetings, where people didn't just listen, they asked for my input. But the title wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was how I saw myself. For years, I'd believed I had to work twice as hard to be taken half as seriously. And I had, over-delivering, staying late, fixing other people's mistakes. And still, I was invisible, disregarded. Not anymore. I'd learned that respect isn't a reward for loyalty. It's something you demand, with boundaries. And I'd finally drawn mine. Things weren't smooth after the storm. There were ripples. My father barely spoke to me. When we crossed paths in the hall or sat in meetings, his tone was clipped. Not cold, just unsure. Like he didn't know who I was anymore. Mark didn't come back at all. By the end of the week, a quiet email went out. "Mark Langston will be stepping down as vice president effective immediately. No farewell, no statement, just a strategic disappearance." Rumor had it he was given a choice: resign quietly or face an internal investigation. Given the paper trail I'd provided, the choice was obvious. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. This wasn't revenge, it was clarity. That Monday, I was invited to a roundtable meeting with Mr. Howard and key partners, the kind of meeting I hadn't even known existed. Decisions were made before the rest of the company heard about them. The kind of meeting I used to be told was above my pay grade. Now I was in the room, not because of politics, but because of proof. When I returned to my office, there was an envelope on my desk. No name, just, "For Mia." The handwriting was my father's. Inside was a handwritten note. "Mia, you've always had more strength than I knew how to handle. I see that now. You didn't just earn your place. You defended it, even when I made it impossible. That kind of resilience, I didn't teach you that. You taught it to yourself. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know. I'm proud of you. Dad." I read it 3 times before I set it down. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the years. But it was something. A beginning. That night, I stayed late. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I walked the halls I'd once called home, past the lobby, the break room, the old desk where I'd kept everything running without credit or thanks. And I realized something. We don't just inherit legacies, we redefine them. My father built this company with discipline and drive, but I was helping rebuild it with something just as vital: dignity. That was the real transformation. A week later, I launched a mentorship program for junior staff, especially women and entry-level employees who were too often overlooked. We called it Frontline to Future. It gave people space to grow, to be seen before they had to fight for it. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just surviving the system. I was changing it. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was proud. Not because I'd been given power, because I'd realized I didn't need permission to claim it. In the end, it wasn't the title or the office door that mattered. It was the voice I had reclaimed, and the courage to finally use it. That was the legacy I wanted to leave. Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been told they were just anything.